Okay, lots of people ask me, how do I choose the right CMO provider? Today, we're gonna dive deep into that one. By the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly how to hire the right fractional CMO and avoid the major pitfalls that could come with hiring the wrong one. Choosing the wrong fractional CMO can cost you a lot of money, but worse, cost you a lot of months and frustrations. And we wanna make sure that you make the right decision, and that's what we're gonna be covering today. So here's why this decision is hard. There's a lot of people in the marketplace that are selling themselves as fractional CMOs. And it's really difficult to figure out who are the fakers versus who are the rainmakers. And that's where the due diligence has to come in your side. And that's what we're gonna talk a little bit about today. In order to make sure that you get the right fractional CMO, you first have to ask yourself, where am I gonna find them? And most people will say, oh, I'm going to go to LinkedIn, or I'm gonna go to Upwork, or I'm gonna go to Indeed or a headhunter. And all those options can work. I'm not saying that they won't, but the reality is that typically your network is gonna have the strongest candidates for you in the beginning. So I always encourage people to ask their network first. If your network doesn't have a solution for you, then you can start to go to one of those other elements. The only one that I would actually steer away from are the headhunters, because they can charge you $10,000 to $20,000 and then sometimes a recurring fee over months and months. And it's just unnecessary when there's so many other elements out there. So let's assume that you've chosen a place to find your CMO. You weren't able to find one through your network. The place where you choose to find them has far less importance than who you actually choose. So we're gonna talk about how to choose the right one and how to avoid the costly mistakes. Here's what actually matters most when you're evaluating a fractional CMO. Number one, do they have experience in your industry? And number two, can they prove it? The reason why you want to hire somebody with experience in your industry is there is a massive difference between marketing an e-commerce product or a service-based business, for example. And if you were even going into service and the person said, oh, I've marketed lots of service-based businesses. Well, there's a huge difference between marketing, say, an HVAC provider and an attorney's office. Each one of these has different creatives. They have different ideal client profiles. They have different channels that work well and many that don't. They have different funnel structures and messaging systems. And if you focus on somebody that hasn't had experience in your industry, all the ideas they can tell you sound good in theory, but you're gambling. You want to leverage the experience of somebody that can fast track your success. And that can only happen when they've already worked in your industry. Now, obviously, the second part I talked about is proof. Lots of great fractional CMOs will have case studies, for example, and they can run you through those case studies, and that's awesome. If they don't have case studies, it's a little bit of a red flag, but you can always ask for some referrals, and I recommend that they email you an introduction to those referrals, and you just jump on with them for a quick 20-minute conversation and ask them what their experience was like, and specifically how they moved the needle on the numbers. If you do those two things, it cuts down about 90% of your chance of failure and dramatically increases your speed to a result. Now, part of this responsibility is on you. You need to know that there's actually three types of fractional CMOs, and you need to know which one fits best with your business, where your business is situated today. So there's three types. There's consultative, there's managerial, and then there's execution-based. So a fractional CMO who's going to do consulting only is going to cost you the least amount, but they're also going to invest the least amount of hours. They'll typically devote 2 to 5 hours a month of one-on-one calls with you or your marketing department, and they'll outline the strategies and they'll say, okay, now go deploy this and give me feedback, and then they start to optimize from there. Often they'll give you email and SMS communication as well if they're one of the fractional CMOs I would recommend, but you have to understand that it's now your responsibility or your team's responsibility to execute. That's the one drawback, because if you don't have the right team, or they don't have the time, then you're gonna be investing a lot of money in just ideas, but not execution. The second type is managerial, where they'll come in and they'll actually manage your team. And that may expand to hiring and training new team members if your current team isn't quite up to snuff to be able to execute what they want. Obviously, with that extra workload, they have to invest more hours into their scope of work, which means they're going to charge you more. The third one, which is actually my favorite, is when you hire a fractional CMO that owns or manages an advertising agency. because they typically have the most experience and they're in the trenches every day seeing what's working now, not what worked last year or 5 years ago, but what's actually working today that you can implement immediately into your business. And the big bonus is they have a team that can execute everything that you agree upon quickly and efficiently, and they know your fractional CMO's expectations that they have to meet. That's why that one's usually my favorite out of the 3. Now let's talk about a couple of red flags, things that you need to watch out for. Number 1, super long contract terms. Somebody wants to lock you in for 12 months and they tell you things like, well, with all the things that I want to do for you, it's going to take time and we're going to have to optimize, and we're not going to get answers quickly and you just need to be patient. I'd be a little bit weary on those ones. Sure, that might be the case depending on where your business starts at, but usually it's a clause in a contract to protect the fractional CMO, not you. Typically, I like to do contracts on a 3 to 6 month max with the opportunity to renew on a month-to-month basis after that. Because if somebody can't show you a result in that time frame that's so great that you want to keep them on, then they might not be the right fit for your business. So that's red flag number 1. Red flag number 2, they have no proof and they have no referrals. They're playing the trust me game. Well, if they don't have any referrals and they don't have any proof in your specific industry, 9 times out of 10, it means they don't have any experience in your industry, and now they're gambling your money on their idea. Red flag number 3 is asking them how many clients they currently have and they won't answer the question. Fractional CMOs don't work with just you. That's why they're fractional. They work with multiple other businesses. Now, if they have virtually no clients, what it usually means is they're not very good at what they do. If they've got 15 clients, it means they're going to be stretched very thin trying to focus on your business. I find the sweet spot is somewhere around 4 to 5 clients that they're currently working with. If you actually want to see how this works in a real business, I've put together another video for you. It's the 5 things you must know to make sure that you're hiring the right fractional CMO. And the great thing is, there's a link to it right below, and you can go ahead and click it now.